Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us at SSUC, Spiritual Seekers, United in Community. No matter where you're connecting from today, we welcome you to our gathering for Sunday, October the 17th. A special welcome this morning to a group at SSUC Saskatoon who is joining us this morning at St. Andrew's College for the first time in a long time gathering together. So welcome to you and welcome to all of you, whether you're in BC, in the prairies, in central and eastern Canada, whether in the US or overseas, we welcome you to be with us today. You aren't just welcome, you belong. Along with my teammate Nancy, the gathering comes to you today thanks to our musicians, to Pam on the piano and Janet on the cello. Thanks to our song leaders, to Janice and Jeff, and to our technical team, thanks to Joseph Lewis and Noah. I'm going to say something that is maybe the most obvious statement possible in October of 2021. Are you ready? The last 2 years have been filled with a lot of change. We've all seen changes in the way we interact with each other, in our ability to go out, to work, to play, to visit family, to visit friends. We've seen changes to the whole world's work habits, our ideas about public health. We've had to learn about areas of science we wouldn't have imagined. We've changed how we meet as a spiritual community and what that means to what we do and how we do it. All of this, remembering, is on top of all the inevitable and constant changes in all of our lives. The births, the deaths, the losses, the graduations, the transitions, the retirements, and everything else, including the ever new ways our bodies have to surprise us as we age. Nothing stops. You get the point. We're alive, and so change is our constant. And it's for this reason that we are embarking on a new Sunday series starting today, where we can explore the many different facets of change, the opportunities, the obstacles, in all kinds of changes in our lives. Today, the reality of change and the anxiety it can produce in us. We'll take some time to explore it, to rest in it, to commiserate in it. And all the time, because we are one community, we will be with each other, and we will continue our shared work of living a full and spirited life.
Spirit of life, strong Wherever we place our feet today, we live in relationship with land and with the memories and stories it holds. So I invite us each to take just a moment now to acknowledge the land with which we live and to honor the long story of the indigenous people of that land, those who were first to learn its wisdom, its witness, its medicines, its teachings. For those of us in the SSUC community in Edmonton and in Saskatoon, we honor the Cree and Métis people and the peoples of Treaty 6 territory who have lived and worked this land for generations. As immigrants and refugees and Indigenous people, together we seek a more respectful, equitable, a more mutual, new footing with each other in the generational work of truth and reckoning that can lead to right relationship with one another. As we take time to set aside this time with each other, I invite you to light a candle with me to honor the sacredness of our places and the sacredness of time. As we kindle our flames, we breathe with its flicker. We breathe in our gratitude for all the elements that make life possible. We breathe out our gratitude for all that illumines our path, that makes life possible, the wisdom of the natural world, the lessons of the long story of light finding its expression in so many forms of life, in the natural world, in the diversity of creatures, and the instincts and the intuitions that have helped us navigate almost 14 billion years of change. So we welcome the light that greets us in this new day, the light that has traveled deep in time and space to meet our eyes in this moment, and all that is deep within us that nudges us to honor light in one another. We're going to take a few moments today to think about poverty as one of the real threats to the capacity of human light to shine in its fullest potential. We take a few moments to consider the ways to change the force of that threat. Poverty can happen quickly to anyone. As some of the pandemic-related relief programs are winding up, the United Church of Canada joins a growing movement calling for a universal basic income program in collaboration with the United Nations, in collaboration with our provinces and territories and Indigenous leadership. We're going to take a few moments today to learn what we mean by guaranteed livable income. Guaranteed, signaling a focus on ensuring a level of income for all. Livable, signaling an income that enables people to live with dignity, not just survive or stay alive. Here's the wisdom of some of our youth, along with a respected elder, former moderator of the United Church and Senator of Canada, Lois Wilson. Let's listen to their voices calling us to call on our political leadership to cooperate and prioritize a guaranteed livable income program.
What is guaranteed livable income? Essentially, it's a set amount of income that everyone should receive in a month. So if there's a month where your income is below that, no matter what the circumstance, you will receive that guaranteed amount. If your income is above that amount that month, then you won't. And it ensures that everyone has a bare minimum set amount instead of giving people money after there's an issue or after there is a circumstance out of their hands. So we hope from the passion of all the people in this video, you might be inspired to pursue guaranteed livable income activism in your own community or spheres of influence.
It's worth noting that at a different time in my life, I had initially sort of poo-pooed the idea. It's an idea that almost appears to be too obvious, that you think it can't work. When you eradicate poverty, you eradicate a lot of other problems that exist within society. You give people economic freedom. You give them economic choices. You make labor less exploitable. You give people the opportunity to leave abusive relationships. It gives you that freedom to go out and start a business, to, bargain for a better wage. And the ripple effects of that, I think, will be enormous. There's this tendency among basic income activists to basically say, we get this and all of our problems are solved. And that's not the case. I think that a basic income will work best when it's done in conjunction with other means of strengthening the social safety net. I think that the basic income and guaranteed livable income movement has made leaps and bounds over the last few years. I think that the CERB and other similar programs are a perfect case study to use to speak to its benefits. And I think that because of that, as I say, it's made leaps and bounds. But
justice is always necessary for the poor and for the disadvantaged, the widow, the orphan, and so on. Well, I think that certainly United Church people should know that this has been the policy of our church since 1972. And recently, both the Lutherans and the Anglicans have also passed motions, which have been signed by all their bishops and sent to Ottawa, and nothing has happened. So that's why we decided to see if we could get a network of United Church people going who would actually take some action on this.
Well, when I used to live in Quebec, I was on the disability welfare. That was part of my Asperger's. And basically, I got $1,500 a month. I recognized how powerful that is to be able to have a base amount every month that, you could sell something and make a little more out of, or you could do something for someone, get a little more out of. So it really empowers people to be able to get, yes, their food and necessities, but also the other things they need in life. So if you look at 1 Corinthians 16:2, you're going to see it says, on the first day of every week, each of you is to put something aside and store it up as he may prosper, so that there will be no collecting when I come. And I kind of take that the other way, in the fact that it would be nice for people to be able to have something to store up. Put everyone on an equal scale and enhance people's ability to decide what they want to do for themselves with their money.
As a single mom and the only sole provider, this will guarantee that at least I will be able to live not like lavishly, but comfortably. It will guarantee, not even, hopefully, it will help out what everything on my basic needs. Like now that, especially now this pandemic, like, so both of us is gonna be staying home to be safe, like safe, but at the same time, will we be safe in our own home when we have no food to eat? So it's basically what I'm earning is going to my rent and food on the table. That's it. There's no extra. It's a lot of opportunity, yes, but not for everybody. Like, I come here with a degree, but I wasn't able to find the job that I needed. I have to upgrade, and obviously also have to improve my college diploma and everything. But I'm not blaming government for where I am. I'm just hoping that the government can do something more in order to lift up the marginalized. But I wish that the government will actually look at the real social, deep into social policy, and say like, okay, this is what these people need. We don't need band-aid solution. We need a guarantee that you'll be able to live on what you are making.
In our Time for All Ages this morning, I want to share a book with you that is a little bit of a hybrid. It's not quite a story, but it's also not quite a nonfiction book either. This is a brilliant piece by the author Karen Young and illustrated by Norval Davidinite. I've been picking books with very difficult names to pronounce lately. This is a book entitled Hey Warrior, and what it does is it explains in a very simple but a very compelling way what is going on in our bodies when we worry, when we have anxiety. And when we know things like this book helps us to take the power and the strength to do something, to take action when we're anxious, and to know what we can do to help ourselves and to help each other. So here it is, this book entitled Hey Warrior by Karen Young. There's a feeling called anxiety. Some people say it feels like missing a stair, or that feeling of falling when you're almost asleep. Anxiety can happen to anyone: teachers, doctors, rock stars, parents, gardeners, dancers, astronauts, weightlifters, lion tamers, lots of different people. There's a good chance that plenty of kids you know also have anxiety. Maybe they're going through it right now. Anxiety happens because a part of your brain, an awesome part, thinks there's something it needs to protect you from. It's called the amygdala. It's not very big and it's shaped like an almond. Your amygdala switches on when it thinks there might be danger. It's kind of like your own fierce warrior, always there to protect you. If it senses trouble, it fuels your body so you can be strong, fast, and powerful. Kind of like a superhero. Why don't you give your amygdala a name? Anything you choose will be perfect. Sometimes there can be a teeny tiny problem. The amygdala doesn't check anything out. It's a doer, not a thinker. All action and not a lot of thought. So sometimes it thinks there's danger when there is really no danger at all. If there really is something dangerous, like a grumpy tiger on the loose, then your amygdala is brilliant. Brilliant. Instantly, it will power you up with speed and strength so you can get out of the way of that tiger. Your amygdala is always working hard to protect you, even when you don't need protecting. Have you ever burnt toast and set off the smoke alarm? The alarm can't tell the difference between smoke from a fire and smoke from burnt toast. And it doesn't care. All it wants to do is keep you safe. Your amygdala works the same way. It can't always tell the difference between something that might hurt you and something that won't. So what happens inside your body? When your amygdala thinks there might be something that could hurt you, it powers up your body with special body fuel, including oxygen, hormones, and adrenaline. This is to make you strong, fast, and powerful, in case you need to run or fight for your life. This causes some pretty amazing things to happen inside you, but it doesn't always feel so amazing. If there's no need to run or fight, there's nothing to use up all that fuel surging through you, and it just keeps building up. That's why you feel the way you do when you have anxiety. It's your body doing what strong, healthy bodies do, but just a bit more than usual. When you feel anxious, your brain tells your body to stop using up oxygen on strong, deep breaths so that your muscles can use it to run. This makes your breathing fast and shallow. And when this happens, you might feel puffed or breathless. Your cheeks might blush red and your face might feel warm. The oxygen builds up inside you and the carbon dioxide you normally have drops, and that can make you feel dizzy or confused. Your heart also beats faster to get the fuel to where it's needed in your body. Your heart might feel like it's pounding too hard or beating too fast. Don't worry. That's completely safe. Your heart knows exactly what it's doing. The fuel gets sent to your legs in case they need to run, and your arms in case they need to fight. And those arms and legs, they might feel tight or wobbly. Your amygdala also looks after your emotions. When you feel anxious, it means it's very active and working very hard for you. You might burst into tears. You might get angry. And your body cools itself down so it doesn't overheat if it has to run or fight. You might feel a bit sweaty. And your digestive system, too, the part of your body around your stomach that gets all the nutrients from the food you eat, it shuts down so the fuel it was using can be sent to your muscles. You might feel like you have butterflies in your tummy. You might also feel sick as though you're about to throw up. And your mouth might feel dry. So as you can see, there are very real reasons your body feels the way it does when you have anxiety. It's all because your amygdala, that fierce warrior part of your brain, is trying to protect you, even when you don't really need protecting. Your amygdala does such a great job sometimes that it works too hard. It takes over and starts to decide how things should be done, even though you're really the boss. Remember, it does this to protect you. But things will always run smoother when you are in charge. So how do we tell our amygdala to relax? The most powerful way to make yourself the boss of your brain again is to let that fierce warrior of yours know you're okay. Do this by thinking powerful thoughts. Things like, I can do this. Or, hey warrior, or whatever cool name you've given it, we're okay. You can relax now. Or how about this? Thanks for looking out for me, but we're all good here. Your amygdala will always be ready to listen to you. Another way to be the boss of your brain is to breathe strong, deep breaths. Part of the reason you feel the way you do is because fast, shallow breathing has changed the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide in your body. Strong, slow breathing changes it back. Let's try it. For strong breaths, breathe deeply and slowly. Make sure the air is going right down into your belly, not just into your chest. You know this because your belly will be moving up and down. Do this 5 or 10 times. If you work on your strong breathing every day when you're calm, it will be easier to do when you need it. Your warrior has been protecting you for your entire life. It loves working hard for you, so it might take a little bit of work to get it to relax. Keep working on your strong breathing and your powerful thoughts, and you will be great at them in no time. You and your warrior will be buddies, but with you in control. Always remember, anxiety is a sign that you're about to do something really brave. Anxiety and courage always exist together, always. So take your strong breaths, your powerful thoughts, and that brave warrior of yours, and go be amazing.
These are words that come to us from the writings of Brené Brown. In her book, Daring Greatly, these are excerpts from the introduction and the second chapter of that book. And she writes, I have found that the most difficult and most rewarding challenge of my work is how to be both a map maker and a traveler. Over the years, I've learned that a sure-footed and confident map maker does not make a swift traveler. I stumble and fall, and I'm constantly needing to change course. And even though I'm trying to follow a map I've drawn, There are many times when frustration and self-doubt take over, and I wad up the map and shove it into the junk drawer in my kitchen. It's not an easy journey from excruciating to exquisite, but for me, it's worth every step. And it starts with vulnerability. Vulnerability isn't good or bad. It's not what we call a dark emotion, nor is it always a light, positive experience. Vulnerability is at the core of all emotions and feelings. To feel is to be vulnerable. To believe vulnerability is weakness is to believe that feelings are weakness. What took me a decade of research to learn is that vulnerability is also the cradle of the emotions and experiences that we crave. Vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, courage, empathy, and creativity. It's the source of hope, empathy, accountability, and authenticity. It's the starting place when the map is crumpled in the drawer and all there is to do is travel and be bold enough to draw a new map. In these authentic words of Brené Brown, may we find wisdom for our living.
So we're talking about change in our new series. And it's difficult to talk about the reality of change without talking about the feelings and emotions that it brings up in us. Change is never comfortable. On the whole, we don't love it. Is that an understatement or what? Even if we're the kind of person who can more easily take risks and do new things, there are reasons that we think the way we do and act the way we do. They have become habits for us. They've become who we are. They've become normal for us. And changing that, even if it's a change we want, changes all those habits, changes the patterns of our living. And so it upsets things. We do tend to like equilibrium as a rule. We have expressions for change, tons of them. But think of some of the more descriptive ones. Rocking the boat, upsetting the apple cart, shaking things up. I don't know about you, but rocking, upsetting, and shaking are not words that really generate a lot of positivity. They aren't comforting images. So even if we don't like our current equilibrium, even if we're in a place where we want change, even if we don't like our thoughts and habits at the moment, even if we're not satisfied with our current normal and we're ready for change, it's never comfortable. It's scary and it's anxiety-producing. Is it any wonder then that, depending on the study, Canadians' anxiety levels have risen more in the last year than at any other time that it's been recorded? Risen 5% from 2019 to 2020 alone. Who knows what's happened from 2020 to 2021? We're all feeling, in some ways, a little anxious. When Brené Brown talks of change in her book, Daring Greatly, she uses a metaphor which I find helpful. She differentiates differentiates between being a map maker and a traveler. These are two different tasks. To be a map maker is to look at the environment and sketch the lay of the land. It's to do the research and plot it on paper. It takes into account where you are and where you want to go and develop the best route to get from here to there. So map making needs to look at the past and ask questions like, have I traveled this way before? It needs to look at the present. What factors are different now? What are my assets and liabilities? What's the current conditions out there? And map making needs to look at the future. Where's the best place to go? What will it look like when I get there? What will I need when I get there? In contrast to that, being a traveler is a bit easier because the map is already made. To be a traveler, I just need to follow the map. Read the signs, follow directions. Being a traveler is a status quo activity. Well, for the first 5 minutes it is anyway. That's if it all goes according to the plan. As Brown says, though, a sure-footed and confident mapmaker does not a swift traveler make. I stumble and fall, she says, and I constantly find myself needing to change course. And even though I'm trying to follow a map that I've drawn, there are many times when frustration and self-doubt take over, and I wad up that map and shove it in the junk drawer. The task, it seems, always returns to map making. Because when have things ever gone perfectly according to plan? They rarely do. When have we not stumbled or fallen or taken a wrong turn? Rarely. So the plan only works sometimes in traveling for the first day, maybe the first 5 minutes, maybe the first step. Then the course changes and we need to return to the task of map making. And that's maybe why it can be so stressful. We wonder why there isn't more time to just coast, to just cruise down the highway according to the map. Less time adjusting, rerouting. As Google tells me all the time when I'm driving, recalculating. That's the reality of change. It makes us be map makers most of the time. A difficult and challenging task. Today's Time for All Ages story by Karen Young, Hey Warrior. It's a fantastic tool for children to understand what's going on inside them when they feel worried, when they feel anxious. Kids can do amazing things with the correct information. And by kids, you know I mean all of us. To know that our anxiety comes from a place in our brain that wants to protect us and give us strength. Understanding that, we can have agency around not only those feelings of anxiety, but about what's going on in our body, is a wonderful first step into helping us be the map makers of our journey again, and doing so with a little bit of confidence. I want to just add to that wisdom of Karen Young The following video is just a little piece of a TED Talk by Stanford social psychologist Kelly Mcgonigle. She speaks about research from her book, The Upside of Stress. And she expands on this idea of knowing ourselves in order to be on that journey of being the best map makers, change, people that can cope with change that we can be. Here's Kelly Mcgonigle.
I have a confession to make. For years, I've been telling people stress makes you sick. It increases the risk of everything from the common cold to cardiovascular disease. Basically, I've turned stress into the enemy. But I've changed my mind about stress. Let me start with the study that made me rethink my whole approach to stress. This study tracked 30,000 adults in the United States for 8 years. And they started by asking people, how much stress have you experienced in the last year? They also asked, do you believe that stress is harmful for your health? And then they used public death records to find out who died. Okay, some bad news first. People who experienced a lot of stress in the previous year had a 43% increased risk of dying. But that was only true for the people who also believed that stress is harmful for your health. People who experienced a lot of stress but did not view stress as harmful were no more likely to die. In fact, they had the lowest risk of dying of anyone in the study, including people who had relatively little stress. Now, the researchers estimated that over the 8 years they were tracking deaths, 182,000 Americans died prematurely, not from stress, but from the belief that stress is bad for you. That is over 20,000 deaths a year. So this study got me wondering, can changing how you think about stress make you healthier? And here the science says yes. When you change your mind about stress, you can change your body's response to stress. Now, to explain how this works, I want you all to pretend that you are participants in a study designed to stress you out. It's called the social stress test. You come into the laboratory, and you're told you have to give a 5-minute impromptu speech on your personal weaknesses to a panel of expert evaluators sitting right in front of you. And to make sure you feel the pressure, there are bright lights and a camera in your face. Now, if you were actually in this study, you'd probably be a little stressed out. Your heart might be pounding, you might be breathing faster, maybe breaking out into a sweat. And normally, we interpret these physical changes as anxiety or signs that we aren't coping very well with the pressure. But what if you viewed them instead as signs that your body was energized, was preparing you to meet this challenge? Now, that is exactly what participants were told in a study conducted at Harvard University. Before they went through the social stress test, they were taught to rethink their stress response as helpful. That pounding heart is preparing you for action. If you're breathing faster, it's no problem. It's getting more oxygen to your brain. And participants who learned to view the stress response as helpful for their performance, well, they were less stressed out, less anxious, more confident. But the most fascinating finding to me was how their physical stress response changed. Now, in a typical stress response, your heart rate goes up and your blood vessels constrict like this. And this is one of the reasons that chronic stress is sometimes associated with cardiovascular disease. It's not really healthy to be in this state all the time. But in the study, when participants viewed their stress response as helpful, their blood vessels stayed relaxed like this. Their heart was still pounding, but this is a much healthier cardiovascular profile. It actually looks a lot like what happens in moments of joy and courage. And this is really what the new science of stress reveals, that how you think about stress matters. So my goal as a health psychologist has changed. I no longer want to get rid of your stress. I want to make you better at stress.
It makes you wonder if we can get better at our response to stress and anxiety. Can we get better at change? Might we be more courageous? Might we find our footing a little easier in the midst of our changing world? With just a little bit of work and effort to change our responses about how we think about our anxiety and our stress, might we be more prepared for the changes we want to make in our lives? Might we be better able to be both better map makers and better travelers through this journey of life? Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, life is a series of changes, one after the other. That's the reality of living, and it's also the reality of a life engaging with ourselves and the world. I want to share an old parable with you, as told by Jesus, comes from the 5th chapter of Luke. It goes like this. No one tears a piece from a new garment and sews it on an old garment. Otherwise, the new will be torn, and the piece from the new will not match the old. And no one puts new wine into old wineskins, otherwise the new wine, as it ferments, will burst the skins and will be spilled, and the skins will be destroyed. But new wine must be put into fresh, pliable wineskins. Whatever changes we experience, whatever new twists and detours we encounter on our journey, using the old plan and the old map won't quite work. And as difficult and as exasperating as that prospect seems, the task of map making is before us once again. What will we as a community look like when we gather in person again? Saskatoon, maybe you're helping us with that answer. As we deal with changes about our world and re-entering it, will our anxieties keep us from knowing what changes we can make to adjust to a new world, a new community? With every new change, we need new plans and new approaches and new ways of understanding ourselves and new ways to get to where we're going. Just like new material requires new containers, sometimes new attitudes require new awareness, and new obstacles require new intentions. Throughout our series of obstacles and opportunities of change, I'm hoping we can remember that we have each other. Our vulnerability is the birthplace, as Brené Brown says, the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, courage, empathy, and creativity. And so acknowledging our anxiety in all the changes and chances of life will help us to birth hope and empathy, accountability and authenticity. So our vulnerability in dealing with all the changes of our lives is the starting place for our work together to be bold enough to draw new maps into tomorrow for this deep and spirited living that we want in this life. May it be so for us in the coming days and in the coming weeks through this series, and for you in whatever changes you're experiencing today. In so many ways, may it be. Let's share words with each other that help to strengthen our intentions as we move deeper into ourselves, into community, and into our week. Let's share these words that are before you as our way of praying ourselves into this theme of change. Worry dwells in every moment, silent, hidden, tucked behind laughter and peace and content, ready to dance center stage when the world missteps and normal is lost. May we sit in this moment in recognition of hearts broken open by need, hands stretched out for help, voices raised in soothing songs, minds riddled with pictures of before, lives tuned to what comes next, baskets laden with broken dreams, laps become resting places along the way, doors swung open in welcome, shelter found deep in the arms of change, beauty safe in two ravaged hearts, the world wielding its greatest achievement, me somewhere welcoming you, you somewhere welcoming me. We pray as those full of light, yet ever seeking it.
Outside of my walking, stepped inside another shoes, walked the dusty borders between us, paths I'd never chosen to choose. How then shall I live? How shall I live? How then shall I live? How shall I live? How then shall I live this life? How then shall I live? Heard a sound outside of my listening, felt the living calm of the ground, waited on the voice of the Spirit, singing with its new old sound. How then shall I live? How shall I live? How then shall I live? How shall I live? How then shall I live this life? How then shall I live? Saw the world outside of my looking, gazed upon the eyes of its soul, held the hopes and fears of tomorrow, found the pieces making the whole. How then shall I live? How shall I live? How then shall I live? How shall I live? How then shall I live this life? How then shall I live? Took the step outside of my walking, found within a beat that we share, walked with you the length of a lifetime, and made of life a living prayer. How then shall I live? How shall I live? How then shall I live? How shall I live? How then shall I live this life? How then shall I live?
I want to just share a few invitations and announcements with you before we close our time with one another. There is an opportunity for us to meet each other on Zoom shortly after we conclude our time here in this gathering. Not next week, like it says on your screen, but this very week, this very hour, actually. So a few minutes after we conclude, we invite you to go to our website, find the link, and join us for a bit of conversation about today's gathering theme, an opportunity for us to have a bit of conversation with each other about the reality of change. We are taking a pause from the series, the Exploring Spirituality. We will have an opportunity to return to the other 4 evenings of this series a little bit later in the fall. We are delighted that Claire is recovering from a bit of a setback to his hip replacement surgery and is still recuperating in hospital and will be home soon, we hope. And so we send our very best out to you, Claire, and we look forward to being able to join you in these conversations before very long. There's also opportunities with Emberwood to participate in this season of change as we shift from summer toward winter in the season of autumn, to contemplate some of the practices that center around rest and restoration, opportunities to explore some practices together around the idea of renewal and the kind of renewal that comes out of the practice of hibernation. We also have the opportunity to celebrate the graduation of those who participated in a recent program called NEST with Emberwood and SSUC, an opportunity to celebrate the experiences that they had in their wilderness solo journeys, to hear a little bit of the story of those experiences, and it might just whet our appetite for those of us who will want to participate when another opportunity comes around. You'll see details about that on your screen. And also an invitation to participate with Zoe Chaters in expressive arts therapy sessions. If you're interested in working in this way with Zoe, you'll find a way to do that by connecting into our website for opportunities in either group or individual sessions to give expression and to learn a little more about what's going on in your interior life as well. We're grateful for all the ways you support us, not the least of which is by joining us online. Those of you who give so much of your time and effort to the work that we do in our spiritual gatherings, in our outreach, in living our values. And we're also so grateful and dependent on your financial support. There are several ways to offer your financial contributions, which you see on the screen. And we invite, whether you're able to contribute just once or to contribute regularly, whether your gift is great or small, it is important and meaningful to the work we do, and we welcome your financial contributions. We take a moment, as we do at the end of each gathering, to change the light in an ever-changing world, in an ever-changing community, in an ever-changing pandemic, in ever-changing bodies. We change our light from one form of energy to another. And as we do that today, we do that with a commitment to perhaps the need we have to change our relationship with change. And so we open ourselves to explore and examine the ways that we respond to change as it comes to us this day. May we bring the light of our anxiety, warning us, and also equipping us. And may we bring the light of our courage and our curiosity to embrace and explore what life brings our way this day and in the days that lie between our being together now and next time. May you be safe, may you be well, may you be brave.